Last Tuesday at 3:17 a.m., I recorded something in my basement that made 3 paranormal investigators refuse to enter my house. The sound isn't human, isn't animal, and according to audio experts, shouldn't be physically possible. Your house is making noise again. It's 2 a.m., you're lying in bed, and suddenly there's a sound that shouldn't be there. Your heart starts racing. Was that footsteps, breathing, something worse? Well, here's the thing about nighttime sounds. They're not actually getting louder. Everything else is just getting quieter. During the day, your home buzzes with constant noise. The dishwasher hums, traffic rumbles outside, neighbors talk, TVs play, and you're moving around creating your own soundtrack. But when darkness falls and the world settles down, that background noise disappears. Now every little creak, tap and whisper becomes crystal clear. It's like turning up the volume on sounds that were always there. Your brain doesn't help the situation either. Millions of years of evolution have wired us to pay attention to unexpected noises, especially at night. Back when humans lived in caves, that mysterious sound could mean a predator was nearby. Makes sense, right? So when you hear something unusual in the dark, your ancient survival instincts kick in and scream danger. Then there's the anxiety factor. Once you're already on edge, your mind starts playing tricks on you. That gentle settling of wooden beams becomes heavy footsteps. Air moving through vents transforms into whispered conversations. Even your own heartbeat can sound like someone else breathing in the room. But here's what's really happening most of the time. Your house is just doing house things. Every home is constantly moving, expanding and contracting as temperatures change throughout the day. Wood swells and shrinks. Metal pipes expand when hot water flows through them, then contract as they cool down. Foundation materials shift slightly as the ground temperature fluctuates. These tiny movements create sounds that can seem downright spooky when you're lying in a quiet bedroom at midnight. Let's not forget about all the hidden systems running inside your walls. Water pipes, electrical wiring, heating ducts and ventilation systems are working 24/7. They make clicks, hums, gurgles and taps that you never notice during busy daytime hours. At night, these normal household sounds become the starring characters in your personal horror movie. And the weird part is how our imagination fills in the gaps. Your brain hears an unfamiliar noise and immediately starts creating explanations, usually scary ones. That rhythmic tapping becomes someone knocking. That distant hum becomes voices having a conversation. That creaking becomes footsteps walking toward your room. The truth is far less dramatic than what your mind conjures up. Most mysterious nighttime sounds have perfectly ordinary explanations involving physics, plumbing, or small animals that have found their way into places they shouldn't be. Speaking of animals and ordinary explanations, Reddit is packed with stories from people who were convinced their homes were haunted, only to discover the reality was much more mundane. Take the person who heard whispering voices coming from inside their bedroom wall every single night at exactly 2 a.m. The voices would fade away whenever they tried to get closer to investigate what was happening. Last month, a Reddit user posted something that made thousands of people check their own walls. They'd been hearing whispers at exactly 2 a.m. every night for weeks. Not voices from outside, not the TV downstairs, actual whispering coming from inside their bedroom wall. The sound was just clear enough to seem like real conversation, but too muffled to understand any words. When they pressed their ear against the wall, the voices would fade away completely. Move back to bed. The whispering started again within minutes. This went on for 3 weeks straight. Here's where it gets really weird. The user tried everything to catch these mysterious voices. They set up recording equipment, stayed awake with their phone ready, even asked neighbors if they heard anything unusual. Nothing worked. The whispers seemed to know when they were being hunted. Sleep deprivation was driving them crazy. They started wondering if their house was haunted, or if they were losing their mind. Neither option felt particularly comforting at 2 a.m. when those voices returned like clockwork. Then their landlord mentioned something about old plumbing during a routine inspection. Turns out the building was from 1952, and the original cast iron pipes ran directly through the bedroom wall. These pipes weren't just carrying water, they were carrying sound. But here's the fascinating part. The whispers weren't coming from neighbors talking next door. Street sounds from 2 blocks away were traveling through the pipe system, getting amplified and distorted along the way. Late-night conversations from people walking past a nearby bar were echoing through decades-old plumbing, creating this ghostly whispering effect. The 2 a.m. timing? That's when the local bars closed, sending groups of people walking past the building. Their voices would hit a storm drain connected to the same pipe network, travel underground, then emerge as creepy whispers inside the bedroom wall. Old cast iron pipes are basically giant echo chambers running through your house. They can pick up vibrations from car doors slamming 3 streets over and turn them into mysterious thumps in your bathroom. Street musicians performing downtown can sound like ghostly humming in your kitchen. The user tested this theory by having a friend talk near the storm drain while they listened from their bedroom. Sure enough, clear conversation outside became eerie whispers inside the wall. Mystery solved, but not before weeks of genuine terror. This isn't rare in older buildings either. Pipe systems installed before 1960 often create these acoustic highways that carry sound in completely unexpected ways. What sounds like voices in your walls could be a conversation happening blocks away, filtered through decades of metal tubing, until it becomes something unrecognizable. Well, whispering walls might seem creepy, but wait until you hear about the footsteps that follow people around empty houses. Those sounds have their own equally surprising explanation. Empty house, dead silence, then you hear it. Footsteps right above your head. One Reddit user knows this terror all too well. They were lounging downstairs around midnight when clear, deliberate footsteps started pacing across their bedroom ceiling. Heavy steps, back and forth, like someone wandering around their attic space. The weird part, they lived alone. First instinct was obvious. Grab a flashlight and check upstairs, but here's where it gets creepy. The moment they started climbing the stairs, the footsteps stopped. Complete silence. They'd search the entire upper floor, find nothing, then head back downstairs. Within minutes, the pacing would start again. This went on for weeks, always the same pattern. Footsteps when they were downstairs, silence when they investigated. They started questioning their own sanity. Well, turns out their brain was working perfectly fine. The mystery got solved when they finally decided to check the actual attic space, not just the upstairs rooms. What they found would make most people either laugh or scream. A whole family of raccoons had moved in above the ceiling. These weren't quiet tenants either. Raccoons are surprisingly heavy creatures, and when they walk across wooden beams, it sounds exactly like human footsteps. The reason the noise stopped during investigations: raccoons have excellent hearing. They'd freeze the moment they heard movement below. But here's the kicker. This story isn't unique at all. Animal infestations cause over 60% of mysterious attic noises reported by homeowners. That's a massive chunk of paranormal activity right there. Squirrels are another common culprit. They're lighter than raccoons but way more active. Ever heard what sounds like marbles rolling across your ceiling? That's probably squirrels playing with nuts or just running around. Mice create tiny scratching sounds that get amplified through hollow walls. Then there's the timing factor. Most animals are nocturnal, which explains why these sounds happen at night when houses are quiet. During the day, regular household noise masks their movement. But at 2 a.m., every little scratch and step becomes crystal clear. The scariest part about animal-caused sounds is how human they can seem. Raccoons don't just walk, they pause, change direction, even seem to respond to noises from below. It creates this eerie impression of intelligence, like something is deliberately trying to freak you out. And let's not forget seasonal patterns. Fall and winter drive more animals indoors seeking warmth. Spring brings babies that make entirely different noises, scratching, chirping, or what sounds like tiny voices. Professional exterminators report that most homeowners wait months before investigating properly. They'll try everything, playing loud music to scare away spirits, even setting up cameras pointed at empty rooms. Meanwhile, a simple attic inspection would solve the mystery immediately. The lesson: sometimes the most logical explanation is also the correct one. 2. Those footsteps probably aren't ghosts pacing around upstairs. They're just uninvited guests who happen to be really good at hide and seek. Speaking of sounds that seem intelligent but aren't supernatural, wait until you hear about the basement that wouldn't stop crying. Now here's where things get really twisted. A Reddit user shared something that would make any parent's blood run cold. They kept hearing a child crying from their basement. Deep, heartbroken sobs echoing up through the floorboards at all hours of the night. The catch: no kids lived in that house. This wasn't just a quick whimper or random sound. We're talking about full-blown crying sessions that lasted minutes at a time. The kind of desperate wailing that makes you want to run downstairs and comfort whoever's making that noise. But every time they checked the basement, they found absolutely nothing. Empty rooms. Silence. Just the lingering feeling that something wasn't right. Makes sense they'd be freaked out, right? Most people would immediately think ghost, haunted house, or worse, someone hiding down there. The user even considered calling the police multiple times, convinced an intruder had somehow gotten inside with a child. Well, the mystery solved itself during a particularly loud weekend. The neighbors were throwing an outdoor party, and suddenly the basement crying intensified dramatically. That's when our Reddit detective realized something crucial. The sound wasn't coming from inside their house at all. Air ducts had been playing the ultimate trick on them. The neighbors' party sounds were traveling through connected ventilation systems, carrying voices and noises from outside straight into the basement. Those crying child sounds, probably drunk adults laughing, kids playing in the yard, or even someone's dog making weird noises. But by the time these sounds traveled through metal ducts and emerged in a quiet basement, they sounded completely different. Then there's the acoustic distortion factor. Sound waves don't just magically stay the same when they bounce through tight spaces. Ductwork acts like a funhouse mirror for audio, stretching some frequencies, muffling others, and creating entirely new sound combinations. A woman's high-pitched laugh mixed with a dog's whine suddenly becomes a child's sob when filtered through 20 feet of metal tubing. And the weird part is how common this actually gets in older neighborhoods. Houses built in the same era often share similar ductwork layouts, sometimes even connecting accidentally during construction. Property developers back in the day weren't exactly worried about sound isolation between homes. They just wanted to get the heating and cooling systems installed fast and cheap. Some older buildings make this problem even worse because of thin walls and shared utility spaces. Apartment complexes are notorious for this kind of sound bleeding, but single-family homes aren't immune either, especially in subdivisions where houses sit close together and share similar architectural plans. The user later confirmed their theory by timing the crying episodes with their neighbors' activities. Every time there was outdoor noise next door, parties, lawn mowing, kids playing, the basement sounds appeared like clockwork. Problem solved, sanity restored, and no paranormal investigators needed. But speaking of air systems causing trouble, wait until you hear about the person who thought someone was literally hiding in their closet breathing heavily in the middle of the night. Sometimes the scariest moments happen when you're absolutely certain someone else is in your house. That's exactly what happened to one Reddit user who became convinced an intruder was hiding in their bedroom closet. The breathing was unmistakable, slow, steady and definitely human. Night after night, they'd lie in bed listening to what sounded like someone taking deep, deliberate breaths from behind the closet door. The rhythm was too perfect to be imagination, too consistent to ignore. They'd grab a baseball bat, fling open the door, and find nothing but clothes and old boxes staring back at them. But here's where it gets interesting. The breathing would start up again within minutes of closing the door. Their mind raced through every possibility. Was someone actually hiding in there, somehow escaping detection? Had they completely lost their sanity? The fear kept them awake for weeks, checking and double-checking that closet like it held the answers to life itself. Well, turns out it kind of did hold answers, just not the terrifying ones they expected. After bringing in a friend to witness the phenomenon, because nobody believes the breathing closet story without proof, they discovered something fascinating. A loose vent cover inside the closet had created the perfect conditions for what engineers call sympathetic air movement. The house's HVAC system was pushing air through the ductwork, but that one wobbly vent cover wasn't sealed properly. Air would build up behind it, then release in rhythmic bursts that mimicked human breathing almost perfectly. The enclosed closet space amplified the sound, making it seem like the breathing was coming from right inside the room with them. And the weird part is, this happens more often than you'd think. HVAC systems are basically the unsung villains of most paranormal house experiences. They're responsible for roughly 30% of all mysterious indoor sounds that get reported to home inspection services. Then there's the temperature factor that makes everything worse. As your house cools down at night, air pressure changes throughout the ductwork. Loose covers, damaged seals, or even just poorly fitted vents can turn your heating system into a symphony of human-like sounds. Breathing, sighing, even what sounds like whispered conversations. Some homeowners have reported hearing what they swear are death rattles coming from their vents. Others describe sounds like someone slowly inflating and deflating a balloon. The variety is endless, but the cause is usually the same: air moving through spaces it shouldn't be moving through. Modern smart thermostats have actually made this problem slightly worse in some cases. They cycle the system on and off more frequently than older units, creating more opportunities for these pressure changes to occur. Progress, right? The Reddit user finally got their vent cover properly secured and enjoyed their first full night's sleep in over a month. No more midnight breathing sessions. No more baseball bat investigations. But speaking of electronics causing problems, wait until you hear about the family who thought their television was possessed by spirits. Maria thought she was losing her mind when voices started drifting through her living room at 2 a.m. every Tuesday night. The TV was definitely off. She'd checked it 3 times, even unplugged the thing completely from the wall. Yet there they were again, muffled conversations floating through the darkness like some kind of electronic ghost story. The voices weren't scary exactly, just there. Sometimes she caught fragments of what sounded like a cooking show. Other nights it was news broadcasts from channels she'd never watched. Makes sense to be confused, right? Who wouldn't freak out over a dead TV, apparently hosting its own late-night programming? Here's where things get interesting though. Modern smart TVs are basically computers that never fully shut down. Even when you hit the power button, they're often just pretending to sleep. They're still connected to Wi-Fi, still listening for updates, still ready to spring back to life at the slightest digital whisper. Then there's the neighbor factor that nobody talks about. Wi-Fi signals don't respect property boundaries. Your smart TV might be picking up streaming signals from next door, especially if someone's using the same brand or model. These devices can get confused about which commands belong to which household. It's like electronic eavesdropping, but completely accidental. But wait, it gets weirder. Some TVs have a feature called Quick Start that keeps certain functions running even in standby mode. This means your television is basically half awake all night, processing random signals and occasionally deciding to share whatever it picks up. The manufacturers don't exactly advertise this quirky behavior in their commercials. Maria's mystery solved itself when she discovered her elderly neighbor had the exact same TV model and had been falling asleep with cooking shows playing every Tuesday. The signal was bleeding through their shared wall connection, turning Maria's off television into an unwilling participant in someone else's viewing habits. Electronics make up over 20% of mysterious home sounds, and that number keeps climbing as our houses get smarter. Your smart speakers might activate from random noise. Your phone could start playing podcasts if it mishears a sound as awake. Even your smart refrigerator might decide to announce the weather at 3 a.m. if its sensors get confused. The funny part: most people's first instinct is to blame ghosts rather than glitchy software. We're more willing to believe in supernatural TV programming than admit our fancy gadgets are just poorly designed. Technology companies have created devices so complex that even they can't predict all the weird behaviors. Well, speaking of unexpected sounds that catch people off guard, Maria's story seems almost peaceful compared to what happened to Jake last month. While talking TVs are annoying, they're nothing compared to hearing what sounds like a human scream echoing through your hallway in complete darkness. That's a whole different level of middle-of-the-night terror. What happens when you're absolutely convinced someone's being murdered in your house? That's exactly what happened to one Reddit user who woke up to what they described as the most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard. The sound ripped through their hallway at midnight, lasting only a few seconds before dropping into complete silence. The terror was immediate. This wasn't some faint whisper or mysterious tapping. This was a full-blown horror movie-level scream that made their blood freeze. They grabbed a baseball bat and searched every room, expecting to find something terrible. Nothing. No signs of struggle, no broken windows, no intruders hiding anywhere. But here's where it gets interesting. The screaming happened again, the next night. Same time, same intensity, same sudden stop. Then again, on the third night. Either they had the world's most punctual ghost, or something else was going on. After a week of sleepless nights and frayed nerves, our Reddit detective finally cracked the case. The culprit, their roommate's pet parrot, tucked away in a back bedroom. The bird had developed a habit of letting out these incredibly human-like screams right around midnight. Why midnight? Probably because that's when the house got quiet enough for the parrot to hear outside noises that spooked it. Exotic pets are absolute masters at producing sounds that'll make you question reality. Parrots especially can mimic human voices so perfectly it's unsettling. They don't just copy words either. They pick up screams, laughter, crying, even conversations from TV shows. Some parrots can imitate the sound of a phone ringing or a microwave beeping with scary accuracy. The weird part is how these birds choose when to unleash their vocal talents. During the day they might be perfectly quiet, but something about nighttime triggers them. Maybe it's the change in household activity, or they're responding to sounds we can't even hear. Either way, they've probably caused more paranormal experiences than we realize. Then there are the other exotic pets that love messing with our sanity. Sugar gliders make chirping sounds that can seem like voices. Ferrets produce strange chattering noises. Even some reptiles can create sounds that don't belong to any creature you'd expect in your house. One person spent months thinking their basement was haunted, only to discover their neighbor's iguana was making weird clicking sounds through the shared wall. Pet-related sounds can confuse even people who've lived with animals their whole lives. The acoustics of a house can completely change how these noises travel and sound. A parrot in the back bedroom might sound like it's coming from the hallway. A cat playing in the attic might sound like footsteps. And don't get started on what hamsters running on wheels can sound like at 3 a.m. What makes these situations even more confusing is that pets often go silent the moment you start investigating. It's like they know they've caused enough chaos for one night. Speaking of things that go bump in the night, sometimes the most persistent mysteries come from sounds that follow a pattern. Rhythmic knocking that happens every single night at the same time can drive even the most rational person to the edge of sanity. When Sarah from Colorado posted about the mysterious knocking inside her locked spare room, the responses flooded in immediately. 3 knocks, always 3, every night at 2:17 a.m., without fail. She'd checked everything. No one hiding in closets, no loose objects that could fall. The room stayed locked, and she had the only key. Yet the knocking persisted, driving her to the edge of sanity. Her husband thought she was losing it. Fair enough, even Sarah started questioning her own ears. But here's where things get interesting. Sarah's house was built in 1967, right during the era of copper plumbing expansion. Those pipes had been heating and cooling for over 50 years, creating their own rhythm of expansion and contraction. Old water pipes are basically giant musical instruments hiding in your walls. When hot water flows through copper pipes, the metal expands. When it cools down, it contracts. This process creates a tapping sound that can echo through walls, making it seem like the noise is coming from completely different rooms. The weird part, Sarah's neighbor had a habit of running his dishwasher every night at exactly 2:15 a.m. His hot water pipes ran directly behind Sarah's spare room wall, before connecting to her house's main line. The temperature change from his dishwasher cycle caused both sets of pipes to expand simultaneously, creating that distinctive 3-knock pattern. Temperature changes in wood can cause similar mysteries. Wooden door frames, floorboards and even furniture expand during the day and contract at night. This creates sharp cracking or knocking sounds that seem to come from nowhere. Hardwood floors are especially guilty of this behavior, particularly in older homes where the wood has had decades to develop its own settling patterns. Then there's the issue of water hammer, a plumbing phenomenon that sounds exactly like someone knocking on pipes. When water flow stops suddenly, it creates a shock wave that travels through the plumbing system. This can happen when washing machines shut off their water intake or when toilet fill valves close quickly. Most mysterious knocks follow predictable patterns once you know what to look for. They happen at consistent times, usually when heating or cooling systems cycle on and off. They occur more frequently during seasonal temperature changes when materials are expanding and contracting more dramatically. Sarah eventually solved her mystery by tracking the timing. She noticed the knocking only happened on nights when her neighbor was home. Weekend trips, silent nights, neighbor on vacation, no mysterious knocks. The correlation was impossible to ignore. What's fascinating is how our brains interpret these sounds. 3 rhythmic knocks sound intentional, like someone trying to communicate. Random creaking feels natural, but consistent patterns trigger our pattern recognition systems, making us assume intelligence behind the noise. Speaking of patterns, some homeowners report hearing what sounds like Morse code tapping through their walls. While that particular mystery involves a different kind of communication entirely, it shows just how creative our houses can get when trying to grab our attention.